My name is Clara. I turned 19 this past spring. I've always been quiet, focused, not the kind of girl who drew attention at school or family parties. But I worked hard. Every birthday since I was 6, I asked for money instead of toys. Every summer, while other kids went to camp or the beach, I bagged groceries, babysat, mowed lawns, even painted fences when the hardware store needed help. My parents taught me the value of money, or at least my mother did. Dad left when I was 12. We don't talk about him much. The total, after 13 years of saving, was just over $20,000. Enough to make college real. Community college for now, then maybe transfer to a university once I proved myself. I kept the money in a joint savings account under my name and my mother's, but she got sick last year, breast cancer, and had to stop working. Medical bills came in. We were struggling, and that's when he stepped in. Uncle Dennis, Mom's younger brother, though you wouldn't know it. He always looked older somehow. He'd been a fixture in our lives on and off, the type of man who had a new plan every month, a new job, a new scheme. Temporary rough patch, he'd say with a laugh that didn't match his eyes. My mother always forgave him, always made excuses. He helped out sometimes, sure. Drove me to school when our car broke down, brought over groceries when things got tight. But he never did it quietly. He always needed to be seen doing the right thing. 2 months ago, after a brief hospital stay, my mom was too tired to keep up with bills. So, she made a decision. She gave Uncle Dennis limited access to our accounts to help out. Just to pay the electric, the water, she said. He's family. 3 weeks later, I went to deposit a small check from my weekend shift at the diner. That's when I saw the balance, $432.55. I remember staring at the screen, thinking it was some kind of glitch, a system error. I asked the teller to print the transaction history. She hesitated, even asked if I was sure. I said yes. It was all there. Withdrawal after withdrawal, all labeled online transfer. Every dollar gone. I don't remember walking home. I do remember the numbness, the way my hands wouldn't stop shaking as I turned the front doorknob. I found Mom asleep on the couch, her face pale, a half-empty cup of herbal tea on the table. I didn't wake her. I went straight to my room, shut the door, and opened my laptop. I started digging, not just into our bank records, but into Uncle Dennis, his social media, his history, anything I could find. And there it was, staring me in the face, under a sun-soaked filter, a brand new Sea-Doo GTX Limited jet ski. Captioned, "Treating myself, summer's not gonna enjoy itself. My money, my future, gone. And no one else knew. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The image of that stupid jet ski burned into my eyes. I could almost hear his laugh, that smug, greasy chuckle, like he was always in on a joke no one else understood. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to break down. But I didn't. That's not who I am. Not anymore. I waited until morning, until the sun slipped over the neighbor's roof and painted the blinds gold. Mom was already in the kitchen, moving slow, spooning oatmeal into a bowl like it weighed 50 pounds. Her hair had started growing back after the last round of chemo, fine and gray now, nothing like before. She looked tired, but peaceful. I hated that I had to break that. I slid the printed bank statement across the table. She glanced at it, then looked up at me, confused. Her voice was soft. "What's this?" "You let him into the account," I said. "You gave Dennis access." She blinked. "Clara, He said he'd help while I was in the hospital. I thought it was just to pay the electric, maybe some groceries." "He didn't pay the electric," I interrupted. "Or groceries. He bought a jet ski, Mom, with my college fund." Her face turned pale. She pulled the paper closer, scanning the numbers. "That can't be right." she whispered. He wouldn't. He did. I opened the laptop and pulled up the picture again. See for yourself. Her lips parted slightly. She looked like she was going to be sick. I didn't know. I swear, Clara, I would never. I believe you, I said quickly. And I meant it. She looked wrecked. Whatever guilt she carried, it was real. But we need to fix this. She nodded, slowly. I'll call him. He'll bring it back. No, I said. Don't call him. Not yet. She looked up, confused. Why not? Because he'll lie. And once he knows we know, he'll start covering his tracks. I want to go to the bank first. I need to know if this was legal, if we can press charges, or freeze what he has left. Mom hesitated. He's your uncle, Clara. He stole from me. Her silence said more than words could. After a moment, she said, All right, we'll go after breakfast. I didn't eat. I just sat there, staring at the steam from her oatmeal, feeling like a stranger in my own house. At the bank, the manager was kind but firm. Since Mom had added Dennis as a temporary authorized user and hadn't put any restrictions in writing, the withdrawals weren't technically illegal. Immoral, yes, but not criminal. Unless we could prove fraud or coercion, there was little we could do. My mom's eyes were wide with regret. He knew what he was doing, I told the manager. He waited until she was too sick to pay attention. The manager hesitated. If you believe there was financial abuse, you may want to speak to a lawyer, especially since it involved medical vulnerability. That word stuck with me. Abuse. I hadn't thought of it like that before. But the more I replayed everything in my head, the more it fit. This wasn't an accident. This was planned. He waited until Mom was weakest, until I was distracted by work and school applications. He'd watched us drown and slipped a hand into my pocket while pretending to throw us a rope. I thanked the manager and asked to be removed from the account completely. I'd open a new one with no one else on it, not even Mom. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at the blank screen of an email I hadn't yet written. I was tempted to tell him, to send him the photo back, attach the bank statement, type just 2 words. I know, but I didn't. Instead, I printed everything, saved backups, collected receipts, traced his digital footprints. I was going to hit him where it hurt. And it wouldn't be with words. I spent the next week becoming someone else. Someone meticulous, ruthless, strategic. I wasn't the girl who used to bake brownies for the church potluck anymore. I was the girl who spent late nights combing public tax records, reading small claims court filings, and learning what a forensic accountant actually does. The longer I searched, the more I uncovered. Dennis had debt, a lot of it, back taxes, 2 maxed-out credit cards, 1 eviction, and a history of job hopping that looked less like a career path and more like a runaway train. He wasn't just a freeloader, he was a sinking ship, dragging anyone close down with him. And my mother? She'd let him pull her under again and again. But this time, he'd taken me with him. I made an appointment at the local legal aid clinic. The attorney they assigned to me was a woman in her 60s named Marla Sutton. Her voice was calm, and her eyes were sharp. She didn't flinch when I showed her the bank documents, the photo, or the social media posts Dennis had made showing off expensive dinners and lakeside trips. She read everything slowly, carefully, then leaned back in her chair. Clara, what your uncle did may not be criminal theft in the traditional sense, she said. But if we can prove that he took advantage of your mother's medical condition to gain access, and that he never intended to use the money for her benefit, we may be able to bring a civil suit, possibly more. Will I ever get the money back? Her expression softened. That depends on what's left. We'll need to subpoena records, track his purchases, and if he's already spent most of it, recovery could be difficult. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. Marla scribbled a name on a sticky note and passed it to me. This is someone who can help you trace the transactions. He's not cheap, but he's good. I didn't ask how I'd pay for it. I just nodded. At home, things had grown awkward. My mother tiptoed around me like I might shatter. She tried small gestures, my favorite tea, folded laundry, a sticky note on the bathroom mirror that read, "Love you more than you know." But the truth hung in the air like smoke. She'd opened the door. She'd handed him the key. Whether she meant to or not, she'd picked him over me. That night, she knocked on my door. "Can I come in?" I hesitated, then nodded. She sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded. "I called your uncle." My stomach dropped. "I didn't tell him everything," she said quickly. "Just that I saw some suspicious activity. I asked him to come over this weekend." "Mom, why?" "Because I need to see him lie to my face," she said, voice trembling. "I need to hear it. Maybe you've always known who he really is, Clara, but I didn't. Or maybe I didn't want to." I stared at her. For the first time, I saw the cracks. Not from illness, but from denial, years and years of it. I nodded slowly. "All right," I said. "He comes here, but we record everything. I want to see him lie too." And in that moment, we weren't just mother and daughter anymore. We were allies. Dennis arrived on Saturday afternoon, right on time. That alone was suspicious. He drove up in a rented black SUV, not the old Ford he used to curse and slam the hood on. This vehicle was spotless, too shiny for a man who claimed last winter he couldn't afford brake pads. Mom watched from the living room window as he stepped out in designer sunglasses and a collared shirt, like someone auditioning for a role he didn't know he'd already lost. I had set the phone under a stack of mail on the end table, voice recorder running. Another device was hidden in the kitchen, near the hall, in case he wandered. I checked everything twice before he walked in. He greeted us with a grin that had always made me uneasy, arms spread like he'd just come back from war. "My girls!" he boomed, then kissed Mom's cheek and moved to hug me. I didn't move. He hesitated, then covered it with a chuckle. "Still not a morning person, huh?" It was 2:15 in the afternoon. Mom gestured for him to sit. "Dennis, we need to talk about the money." He flinched just slightly. Then his face changed, like someone flipped a switch. "What money?" "The account," she said. "Clara's savings. It's gone." Dennis leaned back, exhaling like this was all some big misunderstanding. "Come on, Anne. You said I could use that to cover the bills. I paid what I could. Times are hard." "You didn't pay the bills," I said flatly. "You bought a jet ski." He blinked. "What? That? Oh, come on. That was... Look, I had some personal cash come in. Old buddy owed me from back in the day. That had nothing to do with your account." I reached into the folder beside me and pulled out the printed screenshots, the bank statement, the dates, the photos. I didn't hand them to him. I laid them neatly on the coffee table, like evidence in court. His eyes narrowed. "You've been spying on me?" "No," I said calmly. "I've been protecting myself." He looked to Mom for support, but she didn't meet his eyes. "I didn't know," she said quietly. "You told me you'd only touch a little. For electric, for food." "I meant to pay it back," he muttered. "With what?" I snapped. "Your imaginary job? Your other lies?" His face hardened. "Watch it, Clara." I didn't flinch. "You didn't just steal money. You stole trust. You watched me scrub floors and count change while you scrolled Amazon. You didn't even need that jet ski." His mask cracked, just for a second. And then came the rage. "You think you're so special?" he spat. "You and your college plans and your fancy little spreadsheets? Newsflash, sweetheart. Life doesn't care how many lawns you mowed. You think the world owes you something because you saved up birthday money like a squirrel hoarding nuts. Grow up." The room went silent. Mom stood. Her voice was shaking, but loud. "Get out, Dennis." He turned to her, stunned. Anne! Get out! He opened his mouth, but whatever he wanted to say died on his tongue. He scoffed, shook his head, and stormed out. The door slammed behind him. Tires screeched. I stopped the recorder. The time read 23 minutes and 12 seconds. It was more than enough. Monday morning, I took the recording to Marla. She listened with her headphones on, taking notes, her expression unreadable. I sat in the plastic chair across from her, the folder of documents on my lap, trembling just a little in my hands. It felt surreal, like I was sitting in on someone else's court case. When the audio ended, she sat back and sighed. "He's arrogant and reckless," she said. "That helps us." Is it enough? For a civil suit, yes. He admitted he used the funds for personal spending and had no intention of repayment. That's conversion, at the very least. And if we can show that your mother was in a vulnerable state when she gave him access, we might be able to attach financial elder abuse. I nodded, my stomach tight. How long does this take? She smiled faintly. Longer than it should. That afternoon, I met with the forensic accountant. His name was Greg, and he looked like he hadn't smiled in a decade, but he was thorough. After a brief introduction, he started going through the transfers like a detective at a crime scene. Most of it went fast, he muttered, eyes flicking across his laptop screen. Jet ski dealer, online boutique stores, a rental property in another county, likely a vacation spot, Uber Eats, subscription boxes, gambling site, no big surprise. My throat went dry. Gambling? Greg nodded. Minor, maybe testing the waters. But there's a pattern. He started taking out small cash withdrawals at gas stations a week after the bulk of the money hit his hands. That's often how gambling starts. Discreet, cash only. What's left? He typed for a moment, then turned the screen. Maybe $3,000, sitting in a secondary checking account under his name alone, but he's already moving it. A few Venmo transfers, one PayPal withdrawal. If you want a shot at freezing that, we need to act now. Do it, I said. I signed the forms that would let Greg coordinate with Marla to file for a financial hold on Dennis's assets. It felt strange, like I was reaching into someone else's pocket. But that money was mine. Every cent. That evening, Mom made dinner. She hadn't tried in weeks. Just pasta and jarred sauce. But the effort meant something. We ate in silence, the kind that wasn't tense anymore, just tired. Afterward, she spoke without looking up. I used to cover for him when we were kids. Dennis. He was always getting into trouble, breaking things, lying. I'd tell my parents it was me. Why? I asked. She shrugged. I thought that's what sisters did. He made me feel like I was all he had. Like if I didn't help him, no one would. And now? She looked at me. Her eyes were wet. Now I realize he's been using me my whole life, and when he couldn't anymore, he used you. I nodded. For once, I didn't feel like a kid needing her mother to fix it. I just felt like her equal. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. You think you can take me down? I've got nothing to lose, kid. Careful what you start. No name, but I didn't need one. The next morning, I reported the message to the police. The officer at the front desk didn't seem impressed, just asked if Dennis had a history of violence. I said no. He raised an eyebrow and typed something slowly into a form. Technically, it's not a direct threat, he said, but if he contacts you again or escalates, keep a record. Print everything. If it crosses a line, we can act. Not comforting. Marla was more interested. Intimidation can speak volumes in court, she said, holding the printed message between two fingers like it was toxic. It may not be criminal in itself, but it paints a picture, especially when paired with his outburst in your home. Judges pay attention to patterns. By Thursday, the emergency freeze on Dennis's secondary account had been approved. The bank was ordered to place a hold on the funds and restrict withdrawals. I felt a jolt of satisfaction when Greg emailed me the confirmation. $3,042.67 secured. A fraction of what I'd lost, but still, it meant something. It meant he couldn't just keep taking without consequences. That evening, Mom and I sat together with a photo album she hadn't opened in years. She'd pulled it from the hall closet without saying a word. Inside were pictures of me at various ages, usually with a birthday cake or school project. And then there were the photos of Dennis, smiling with a fishing pole, grinning in the driver's seat of our old minivan, sitting at Thanksgiving tables like he belonged there. Mom sighed. He used to be charming. You'd never think twice. But even then, there were signs. She pointed to a photo of me at 7. I was holding a pink piggy bank with stickers all over it. You cried that day, she said. You said it was missing money. I told you it must have been a mistake. I stared at the image. I remembered the pig. I remembered shaking it, sure it had felt heavier, but I'd believed her when she said I must have imagined it. He was house-sitting that week, she added softly. The realization landed hard. This wasn't the first time he stole from me. It was just the first time I caught him. We made a list that night, names of family members who might have had similar experiences. We called Aunt Lorraine first. She didn't even hesitate. Dennis? That boy borrowed $2,000 from me in 2017 to fix his brakes. Never saw a dime back. Then Cousin Patrick. He said he needed a cosigner for a lease, Patrick said. Said it was just to boost his credit. My credit took the hit when he bailed. By the end of the night, we had 6 names. 6 relatives with the same story. Dennis, charm, urgency, lies, and silence. I asked if any of them would testify. Most said no. Too much trouble, too old, too tired. Except Lorraine. I'll say what needs to be said, she told me. He's gotten away with this long enough. Later, I found myself alone in my room, staring at a blank college application. Deadlines were creeping closer. I'd already missed early admission. Even if I got in somewhere now, I couldn't afford the tuition, not yet. And still, I kept filling it out, because this story wasn't going to end with me beaten. The freeze on Dennis's account was barely a day old when the retaliation began. It started small. A broken flower pot on our porch, one we hadn't touched in years, shattered under mysterious circumstances during the night. Then a series of hang-up calls, always from blocked numbers, always around midnight. I logged everything, dates, times, even photos of the shattered ceramic. Mom stayed quiet through it, but I saw her check the locks 3 times before bed. Fear had crept in, just under the surface. It lived with us now. 2 days later, Marla called. He's lawyered up, she said. Some half-baked firm from out of town, but enough to make noise. They're claiming your mother gave him full access to the funds for his own use. She didn't, I said. She never said that. And we have it on tape. They're banking on a jury seeing you as an emotional teenager, punishing a man for poor decisions, not theft. They'll try to spin you as vindictive. Bitter. Let them, I replied. I'll show them receipts. Marla paused. And Lorraine? She's ready, I said. She's even kept the email he sent her years ago when he promised to repay her in 3 weeks max. He never did. That helps. Later that evening, Lorraine came over for dinner. She brought a casserole and a folder thicker than I expected. I started digging too, she said with a wry smile. I may be old, but I've got emails, bank notices, even a voicemail or 2. She sat at the table like she belonged there. My mother watched her, equal parts grateful and ashamed. Why didn't I see it sooner? She asked. Because we were raised to believe that family means loyalty, Lorraine said. But loyalty isn't a blank check. It doesn't mean standing still while someone drowns you. The next day, we filed the civil suit. Dennis was officially served 3 days later. According to the process server, he answered the door shirtless, furious, and reeking of alcohol. He crumpled the papers and tossed them into the yard. He said, "Bring it on," the server told Marla. Good. But that night, someone keyed our car. Deep scratches along the passenger side. No note. No witnesses. Mom cried. It was the first time I'd seen her truly break since all this began. Not over the money, not over the betrayal, but the constant pressure, the weight of it. "I just wanted peace," she whispered, gripping a mug with both hands. "I wanted to feel like I had some control left. And now he's taking that too." I didn't have words to fix it. Instead, I filed a report. Again. I printed security camera screenshots from the neighbor's driveway, showing a dark figure loitering at the end of our walkway. It wasn't conclusive, but it added to the pile. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about defense, about finally drawing a line and refusing to be stepped on. Dennis could bluff, rage, destroy plants, and paint jobs. But this time, we weren't folding. We were fighting back. Court was set for 3 weeks out. That felt like both forever and not enough time. Marla prepped us with a calm, measured tone that only made the stakes feel higher. "Keep your answers clear, your voice steady. The facts are on your side. Don't let him bait you." I nodded. I wasn't afraid of Dennis anymore, but I was afraid of what this was doing to Mom. She was thinner now, not from illness. She'd technically finished treatment months ago, but from the stress. The quiet kind that steals sleep and appetite and joy. I heard her cry in the bathroom once, muffled behind the fan. I didn't knock. I just sat outside the door, listening, wishing I could lift the weight for her. Meanwhile, Dennis stayed loud. He posted online, passive-aggressive rants about leeches and family snakes, vague enough not to be taken down, but obvious enough that anyone who knew us would understand. Some of his friends joined in, parroting his lies. One called me ungrateful. Another said I was trying to ruin a man's life over a misunderstanding. I didn't reply. I just saved screenshots. Aunt Lorraine, unbothered by their noise, met with Marla twice, offering more context. Proof that Dennis had tried similar scams on neighbors, friends, even a former employer who fired him for borrowing company funds. It painted a clear picture. Dennis hadn't made one mistake. He'd made a lifestyle of them. On a rare quiet night, I sat with Mom on the back porch. Fireflies blinked in the yard. She reached for my hand and said, "You know, I never thought it would be you fighting this battle. You're so quiet." "I'm not quiet anymore," I said. And I meant it. The courthouse smelled like old wood and nerves. I sat next to Marla, hands folded tightly in my lap, trying to steady my breath. Mom sat behind us, pale but composed. Aunt Lorraine gave her a reassuring squeeze. Dennis strutted in 10 minutes late, wearing a wrinkled suit and a smirk that didn't quite reach his eyes. His lawyer looked more annoyed than prepared. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, called us to order. Dennis's lawyer went first. He painted me as emotional, immature, a girl too attached to her childish college dreams to understand the realities of family finance. He said Dennis acted out of love, that the funds were blurred in purpose, that I had misunderstood the generosity of a family arrangement. I didn't flinch. When it was our turn, Marla stood calmly and dismantled him piece by piece. She introduced the recorded conversation from our home, the printed bank statements, the social media posts, and the threatening text. She called Aunt Lorraine to the stand. Lorraine was magnificent, calm, clear, and devastating. She detailed the money Dennis borrowed, the lies he told, the promises that evaporated. She read from emails, played an old voicemail, and spoke of the shame she felt for letting it happen. But then she looked at me, and her voice strengthened. "I didn't speak up then," she said. "But Clara did. And I'm here because she reminded me that silence only helps the person doing harm." When it was my turn, I took the stand. My voice shook at first, but I told the truth. About every birthday dollar I saved, every shift I worked, about the piggy bank that felt too light, about watching my future disappear while Dennis posted pictures of lake parties. The courtroom was silent. When I stepped down, Dennis refused to meet my eyes. Marla rested our case. The judge didn't rule that day. She said she'd issue her decision by the end of the week. But as we stepped out into the sunlight, I already felt lighter. Not because I knew I'd won, but because I hadn't let him win. The decision came 3 days later. A letter delivered by courier. I held the envelope in my hand for several minutes before opening it, the weight of it heavier than any textbook I'd ever carried. Inside, a single page. The judgment was in my favor. The court ruled that Dennis had misused funds given under limited authority, had failed to act in good faith, and that his pattern of behavior toward other family members demonstrated a consistent disregard for financial boundaries and trust. He was ordered to repay the full $20,000, plus damages. He didn't have it, of course, not all of it. But the court authorized wage garnishment for any future income, seizure of the remaining frozen funds, and a lien on the jet ski he'd once flaunted like a trophy. It wasn't everything, but it was enough. When I told Mom, she cried. Not from sadness, but from release. For the first time in months, her shoulders lowered. That night, she slept through without getting up once. A week later, I got my college acceptance letter. Not to a dream school, but to a good school. One I could afford, with a little help from financial aid, part-time work, and, eventually, the repayments from Dennis. I hung the letter on the fridge, not out of pride, but as a reminder that even when the people you trust try to destroy what you've built, you can rebuild. Stronger, smarter, on your own terms. Dennis didn't show up again. His lawyer tried appealing, but the judge denied the motion. His online rants faded. Maybe he realized no one was listening anymore. One afternoon, I visited Aunt Lorraine. We sat on her porch with iced tea and silence. "You saved more than just your future," she said after a while. "You saved the rest of us from thinking we were crazy." I didn't know what to say, because for a long time, I thought I was crazy. For caring so much. For fighting so hard. But I wasn't. I was just done being quiet.